Good morning, and welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship, all those of you here present and all those of you on Zoom. I'm the Reverend Marsha Vollkommer, late of the Episcopal Church and recently welcomed among you here. Welcome speaks to all of us in our joyous variety in as many varied ways. Gentle welcome for the introverts, and more ebullient welcome for the outgoing. Intentional welcome for the newly arrived, and the welcome of friendship for those who have known and loved one another over time. The welcome of the village for the little ones among us, and the welcome of care for those at the other end of life. Welcome says, hello, you are a part of us. And it can also say goodbye. You have been and you will always be important to us. Welcome is one of the myriad expressions of love.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Too much. Okay, I'll back off a little bit. I am Rick Steele, and I'm with the Buff Pastoral Care Team. This morning, we are sharing an aloha of farewell to Frank and Sue McDonald. Today is our last service here. Frank, did you want to stand up? Sue? Today is their last service with us in person anyway. Hopefully they'll come in on Zoom every once in a while. They came here to Buff from the UU Church in Hillsboro over 20 years ago. Since they've been here, they've been very active, as most of us that have been around the same amount of time realize. Both have been very active with the hospitality team and also with stewardship canvassing. But Frank, what hasn't he been involved with here at Buff? I don't know. I do know that he was a board member. He was on the finance team, that's where we met. And then when Crystal Neva left, Frank stepped up to coordinate and help and cook too, I believe, community night dinners for I don't know how long, quite some time. Yes, quite a few years. And you've also done grounds maintenance here. They are moving to Grand Junction at the end of this week. They're getting ready to pack things up midweek and leaving maybe Friday or Saturday. And they plan to be active in the UU Church in Grand Junction, as well as the senior center. I think you said you were on the board or something now? So, now we all know that they will be dearly missed here at Buff. So please join with me in giving a warm aloha to Frank and Sue. Aloha.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Good morning indeed on this beautiful summer day. I am the Reverend Dr. Barbara Wells Ten Hove, serving temporarily as your transitional support minister, and my mic's a little bright here, friends. Let's turn it down to Tad. Thank you. And Marsha, thank you for those beautiful words of welcome. Oh, that's even more exciting, isn't it? Are we good, fellas? Okay. Wait. Well, this morning, Marsha and I are joined in an abundance of reverends by my spouse, Jocko, also a reverend, retired UU minister, and I know there are at least a couple maybe in the pews, so it's one of those days. And I'm really excited. Jocko and I did co-ministry for 20 years, but we actually didn't preach together all that much. So it's really great that he is willing to preach this morning. Yeah. Marsha asked how long we've been married. 35 years. And today we also welcome Walt Ellis, who is well known to most of us for his stellar work at Buff, helping to run our tech since the pandemic, and I just saw some clapping hands back in the booth. Walt is not only gifted at that kind of work, but he is also a very deeply thoughtful young man who has brought amazing gifts to our church, including working closely with our Teze service, which is the first Monday of every month, which means tomorrow night there will be a Teze service here at 7 o'clock. Walt, sadly for us, is leaving Bellingham to move to Seattle soon, and I'm very grateful for his willingness to share briefly with us in a couple of minutes. Our service today is an exploration of Unitarian Universalist beliefs and theology, and we hope that you come away from it with a deeper understanding of who we are as a religious people. Never let anyone tell you you're not religious because you're a Unitarian Universalist. They're wrong. Let us celebrate the wonderful gift of our religion by singing, I think, the most beautiful hymn in our hymnal. It's hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Words are in your hymnal, 128, it's the gray hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition. So let's rise in body or spirit and we'll sing together. For all that is alive, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is alive, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
I'm a pretty sociable fellow. I get along well with others. Don't tend to have too much trouble with making friends and meeting new people. But throughout my life, there have still been communities that I have wanted to be a part of, but still struggled to break into. Some of these were because of some facet of my identity. Who I am just didn't match up. Some of them were some little thing that all the community members shared that I didn't have or hadn't experienced or didn't understand in the same way. This is not to say that I've been ostracized my whole life. There have been certainly many communities that I've been a loving part of. But even among those communities, there have been some that I've been a part of, but I've felt a need to emphasize a certain facet of myself, or to speak and act in a way that fits into the community, that helps me match the mold created by the community. Whether explicit, or whether it just feels like that's what I should do. This community is not a cookie-cutter community. This community is not one where I feel I have to shape how I interact with the members to be a loving part. This community, much like this quilt behind me, is one in which we don't just appreciate each other because of those parts of ourselves that we see mirrored in each other. We appreciate each other for every different color and texture of fabric and shape and overlap that each of us provides. And this community works not because we are all the same and we fit just right, but because we come as we are and we make ourselves fit. And I love that about this community. So while I light this flaming chalice, symbol of our faith, I dedicate the chalice lighting to the differences that bring us together. Please join me as we recite our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant.
And so, young ones, it's time for you all to find your way up with upstairs. So we're going to sing the children's blessing. We sing most Sundays. We hold you in our love as you go. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you go. It's just wonderful to be a part of a religious community that holds us and embraces us and challenges us, where someone like Walt can share so movingly, and the children can be excited to go upstairs, and where spouses look at each other lovingly and poke each other a little in the side, and we get to hear beautiful music. Never take religious community for granted. It matters. It also matters that there are times when we need to kind of settle in a little bit and reflect on what's going on in the world and reflect on what's in our hearts. Some of you may remember I've done this here before. It's called an embracing prayer, and it's an opportunity for you, and you'll know when, to speak into the gathered embrace of this community names of people in need of care, perhaps some other words that I invite you to say. So if prayer is an unusual or unexpected thing for you, that's fine. Just go along for the ride. So I invite you now, if you choose, to join with me in the spirit of prayer. Gracious One, whom we call by many names, on this beautiful summer day, and the flowers are glorious, and the sky is blue, let us remember to start this prayer with gratitude. For despite the challenges of the world, there is always something to be thankful for. If in your heart there is something you are thankful for, I invite you to call that gratitude into your heart. Feel how thankful you are for something in your life. And then imagine that gratefulness in a word or two, and bring that word or two into your mind. And then if you choose, I invite you to speak that word or two into the embrace of this community. It's just popcorn style. Whenever you say it is the right time. So let us share what we're grateful for.
The body vehicle, plants, trees, blue skies,
A children's cry.
Popcorn.
There are so many things to be grateful for. We could be here all day. But let us know that all the gratitude in the world can fit in our hearts and in this space together. But there is also, I know, suffering and challenge in our hearts and minds as well. Perhaps there is someone in your life who would benefit from knowing that they are held, or not knowing, but just being held in this beloved community. If there's someone in your life that you wish to hold because they are struggling or suffering or gone, I invite you first to call them into your heart. And then their name or a word or two in your mind. And then let us call their names forth now.
Sharon,
Julia, Tony.
Mary, Samantha, Wendy, immigrants,
My sister,
Lena,
our mother.
Todd Hutchins, Kelly.
Holding all of these in this circle of embrace and recognizing that there are so many others whose names have not been spoken into this space. But let us pray that the warmth and kindness that we feel now surrounds them, surrounds us. We live in challenging times, friends, and thus I end this prayer with a plea for courage. For courage, which is another word for heart. Let us find the heart to do what we can to build a better world. Let us take a few deep breaths together.
Well, both Barbara and I grew up Unitarian Universalist, and though it was, in most ways, a blessing, there were things about it that weren't always easy. For instance, even stalwart young UUs, such as the two of us, could nonetheless find ourselves tongue-tied when it came to talking about our religion. At times we spoke clumsy words that would be or could be misconstrued, and too often someone would casually remark, "Oh, I guess you can believe anything you want, huh?" Or, "UUs aren't really religious, are you?" To which we too often struggled to respond coherently. Perhaps because of this, we would grow up and find as one part of our ministerial voice the desire to better articulate Unitarian Universalism in ways that both made sense to us and could be heard by those who maybe knew next to nothing about our faith. So some years ago, we expanded a workshop that we had been doing at the annual UUA General Assembly and turned it into a now 20-year-old curriculum called Articulating Your UU Faith. Now, we like to think that we have continued to grow in our understanding and appreciation of both the simplicity and the complexity of our faith. Though we do strongly believe that there are simple precepts that can be articulated easily by speaker and listener alike, we also recognize that part of what makes our religion so excellent is that it is complex. And dancing with this curiously intriguing dynamic is part of what brings people in through the doors each Sunday. We don't necessarily come to church looking for easy answers, but we do hunger for inspiring spiritual meaning that frequently doesn't fit the ways we're often told are the only ways to be religious. So it can help to have some guiding metaphors and powerful patterns to point out productive pathways that provide purposeful persuasion, promoting peace and personal prosperity.
And that brings us to the crazy quilt. Now, not counting this one, how many of you have seen a crazy quilt? Yeah, a lot of folks. It's a quilt that doesn't follow a formal pattern and is generally made of scraps of fabric that the quilters collect over time. Now, despite my complete inability to sew, I've become something of a connoisseur of quilts. And that's because one thing I have done often over the years is to go see the quilts at the Washington State Fair, you know, the Puyallup, which is one of the largest state fairs in the country. And I love to see the extraordinary variety of this traditional art form. I mean, they're gorgeous ones that are made in well-known patterns of boxes and stars. And then there are others that actually create a picture in fiber, looking more like an oil painting than something you'd put on your bed. And then there are the crazy quilts. Not many people make them anymore, so at this display each year there may only be 2 or 3. But looking at them, you are struck by the stories they were able to pull out of these disparate themes. Stories that made quilts so beautiful, they make you sigh. Now, the crazy quilt that inspired this sermon is that lovely. And here it is, hanging on the quilt, on the whatever that is behind me. Thank you, Walt and Jocko and others to get it up there. This was made for us by our former congregation that we served in Maryland as a leave-taking gift. And it hangs in our guest room at home. And whenever I see it, I'm reminded of what ministry is like. Sweet little comments like young Julia, written when she was barely able to read. Will your journey take you far? That was the question she asked us, and yes, it did. There's a cloth photo of a movement group called the Chalice Dancers, and their words from the choir that remind us of the artistic gifts so warmly given and received in that and so many creative UU congregations. Squares that say, huzzah, Jocko's favorite expression, and it's a beautiful thing, his second favorite expression, tell us that our time there was full of joy. And we are always seeing something new in it that we missed before. It's a gorgeous visual reminder of a very rich era in our lives. Now, as we prepared for this service, we kept going back to that meaningful quilt. And as we did, its metaphorical possibilities leapt out at us. Our religion, particularly the way it lives out in the lives of each individual person and each congregation, has a lot in common with the crazy quilt. And this morning, we hope to articulate our UU faith through a poetic and physical metaphor that means so much to us. Now, I've never made a quilt. Remember the not crafty part of me, not being able to sew. But I've looked at a lot of them, and I have a general idea of how they're created. So we're going to use 3, maybe 3.5 elements of a quilt. And fabric artists out there, for God's sake, forgive me, because I'm simplifying it, all right? I know, I mean, I've had people come and argue with me about this. I know, I do know. It's a metaphor. So the first thing we'll be looking at is the quilt back, the fabric on which the whole thing is hung. Then there are the various pieces, the small sections of fabric that come together to make the front quilt design. And finally, there's the thread that sews and holds it all together. We think that the quilt, in particular the crazy quilt, is a fabulous metaphor for our complex yet simple faith. So this morning, we want to explore this particular metaphor in hopes that it may give you yet another tool to share our faith with others, something we feel pretty strongly about.
I begin with the quilt backing. You can't make a sustainable quilt without a strong piece of underlying fabric that holds it all together, onto which the individual pieces are attached. That's the backing with comments written by the individuals in our former congregation. The abiding fabric that sustains our faith, Unitarian Universalism, is the powerful concept of unity or oneness. It is an unseen force, often beyond or behind or underneath our perception. But it is an essential element with its steady, unifying presence. It is, of course, at the heart of our Unitarian heritage: one Godhead, one underlying fabric of reality, one unifying spirit of life, oneness. Well, meanwhile, some crazy quilts, such as this one, include patches of circles, which might look like zeros, but actually model the ultimate oneness of life, which eternally organizes itself in circles and cycles. On the quilt are many circles of the earth and the sun and faces, plus rings around a variety of flaming chalices. The circle is a reflection of the grand unity of all life that runs through time in its notorious, if reassuring, cycles. And I like the fact that while the uniform backing of the quilt as a whole might be rectangular, which denotes our often right-angular ways of living, it holds together all the dynamic circles that animate our world. We necessarily move among both hard angles and softer circles. It would not do to have only one or the other. But we often allow the sharp edges to govern, while softer circles hide out in the background underneath. However, one need only begin looking for circular meanings to see the pervasively round nature that constantly breathes through life. All life breathes in a cycle that unifies us. Take a big deep breath and exhale. That cycle that unifies us. I can almost feel the way the spectacular front pieces of our crazy quilt here breathe through into their unseen but supportive backing. From it pulls strength to carry on. Thus does the grand unity and oneness, full of both hard edges and softer circles, carry us, breathing together through good times and bad, in and out of relationship, down the corridors of time.
With a strong cloth on which to hang our faith, each of us then creates our own image, an image that reflects the individual nature of each person. We're all unique, right? Now, I know that there are legitimate concerns about Unitarian Universalism, that it focuses too much on individualism, say. But it is certain that one of the strengths of our religion is the freedom we each have to forge our own spiritual path. It's a rare Unitarian Universalist church that doesn't include among its members people who have diverse religious beliefs and practices. So I want to take a quick moment just to see how true this is right now here among us. How many of us were raised Unitarian Universalist? Raise your hand if you were raised Unitarian Universalist. Protestant Christian. Roman Catholic or Orthodox. Jewish or something else. Okay, so we can already see that our paths to this church came from many places. Now, what about current spiritual practices? How many of you here find meaning in the messages and practices of Buddhism? Yeah, a lot. That was not common when I started in the ministry, and now it's really common. What about paganism? What about Christianity, Judaism, Islam? How many of you journal, meditate or pray, use music or art in your spiritual practice, read books that stimulate your mind and your heart, come to church regularly? So we not only come from diverse backgrounds, we have diverse beliefs and we follow diverse practices. Now, I actually believe that this is more true of most religious people and groups than they're willing to acknowledge, but our religion intentionally celebrates the many paths we follow and the many ways we believe. In other words, we not only have these beliefs, but we honor them too. We recognize that each of us brings to our own life different gifts and experiences, different ways of understanding the holy, different ways of creating a meaning-filled life. We don't invite you into religious community, then tell you that you have to piece the quilt of your life together in a pattern that we choose for you. We not only allow you to create your own spiritual patterns, we encourage you to do so. And I really appreciate Walt's words this morning because I think it speaks directly to this. It's why the crazy quilt is such a great metaphor for this part of our lives. Unlike quilts that follow a set pattern, our faith, as individuals, as congregations, as a religion, invites us to piece the quilt together in a unique way. And it's not static. The crazy quilt of Unitarian Universalism has evolved and continues to evolve in creative ways. To push the metaphor, some patches are large and sturdy and are likely to last a long time, and others are fragile, and if they don't hold up, they might get replaced with new ones that work better. Attached to the strong backing of unity and oneness, we can explore our own path and find our own images, metaphors, rituals, practices that work. We share something powerful, an abiding belief in the unity of all creation with love at its heart. But layered on that, we can and will create our own ways of experiencing life in all its impressive variety. One genius of our Unitarian Universalist faith is the honoring of both unity and diversity, a deep quality of life that is ultimately sewn together with great threads of love.
That's right. Love. Love. Let me hear you say it slowly. Love. L-U-V. Love. Yes, love weaves the threads that bind our diversity into unity. You can take all the various crazy quilt patterns offered by many people and lay them out neatly on top of a solid backing cloth, but without the threading action of loving hands, they'll not attach. and your design will slip away into chaos, my friends. Chaos. Whisper with me that foreboding word, chaos. No. We want to manifest the love that is always at the center of our unity and our faith, that great love modeled by that great teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, who said simply enough, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. That message was then celebrated by our courageous Universalist ancestors, among others, of course, as the Universalist Benjamin Rush, Philadelphia physician, writer, educator, social reformer, and signer of the Declaration of Independence, put it, quote, "A belief in God's universal love to all creatures is a polar truth. It establishes the equality of humanity." And Augusta Jane Chapin, Universalist minister, educator, and activist for women's rights, who died in 1905, declared, quote, "We have, all of us, whether rich or poor, whether high or low, of whatever nationality and religious conviction, the same infinity of love." But this love is not a passive affection that asks little of us. No, it is a radical hospitality of actively welcoming and weaving those diverse threads of individuality into a meaningful, purposeful, healing whole that both sustains the individual and strengthens the community. One must also choose the threads to use and then employ the right tools to sew together the patterns that become the quilt. And those materials reflect the activities that orbit around and within, say, a loving congregation like this one. We all hunger for enrichment, the often colorful threads of activity that bind one to another and build relationships that matter. Our active, loving hands use the tools of love to create community together. The influential religious educator Dorothy Tilden Spurl ordained a Universalist minister in 1929, who died 70 years later in 1999, urged us to, quote, "choose those actions which will demonstrate that we do not just talk about love, but incorporate it into our inner frame of reference." Yes, indeed, love is not an easy row to hoe or seam to sew if one brings to it the depth of value and awareness about love that were taught by Jesus and other important models of this unifying posture. Advocating universal salvation, as the Universalists have always done, is a demanding, even dangerous path, and we can be inspired by those good Universalist ancestors who pioneered a religion that lifted up a steadily loving God and wove an image of unity that challenged the religious status quo then and still does. Love is a vigorous, industrious commitment to the ongoing tasks of weaving whatever brokenness inhabits our time into a recovered, renewed, and reviving fabric. And I suspect your own personal journeys reflect such quilting. So I invite you to imagine both the hard edges and the interwoven circles and cycles of your life that go into the fabric of love and unity that you embody. How have you woven together the diverse threads and strands of experience and background that make you who you are? In your own meditations and reflections, allow the image of a crazy quilt to gather together the strands of your life, assembled in struggle at times, no doubt, but nonetheless in an abiding love that informs the chapters and channels of your story. You stand in line with Universalist and Unitarian ancestors who in their own times did the same, who in their own ways pieced together their world in a coherent fashion as best they were able. We do that work today as inclusive religious liberals, still bucking various status quos, still striving to weave and reweave the beloved community bit by bit.
As we create our own individual understanding of our faith, we do so most effectively in a community of fellow seekers. While it's certainly possible to quilt together a meaningful life on one's own, when we bring our individuality into community, we discover much richer ways of living than we can alone. And the quilting metaphor can help us one more time. When some years ago, Jocko and I went to the Washington State Fair, we of course spent some time looking at the quilts, and they were beautiful. But I was unable to find a crazy quilt until I discovered a group of people sitting or standing at a quilting table. Some of you may know what that looks like. And they were piecing a crazy quilt together. And they were laughing and they were talking while they figured out where each differently shaped piece would go. And I asked them if they were following a pattern. And the response they gave me was telling. They told me that the pattern was subtle and flexible, but real. Within it, they could make lots of decisions that ultimately led to the creation of that beautiful quilt. It wasn't something that one person decided on their own, but rather it evolved as they worked together. Sounds a bit like church, huh? Congregational life, as we create it together in our liberal faith, provides what we like to call a benign structure that allows each of us to move creatively within it as we explore our spiritual life. Church also gives us a place to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. As beautiful as each quilt piece is on its own, when we bring the pieces together, we create something even more gorgeous. And community, particularly religious community, provides us a place in which we can grow and change and be together in ways we could not possibly do alone. But it isn't easy. Sitting at home, thinking our own deep thoughts without ever having them challenged or even appreciated by another can be very tempting. Yet we are so much stronger together than we are apart. And it should matter to us here and to all of us in Washington State that there are Unitarian Universalists in this state. But there are also UUs in Idaho and California and Ohio and Mississippi and even in places like Uganda and New Zealand. Our faith touches people all over the world, and we make a very real difference, especially these days. These days need us, friends. We are blessed to be a part of a religious tradition going back hundreds of years. We are blessed to be a part of a liberal religious community still actively engaged in the world. Yes, it can seem a little bit crazy to do religion the way we do it, without creed or dogma. Other people may tell us, oh, you're not religious. You're not religious. But we have an open-hearted, open-minded religion. We have tradition and spirituality that must remain alive. So let people call us crazy, for the crazy quilt that is our faith tradition is one that is beautiful, it's creative, and it will stitch us together as we do the hard but powerful work of building a better world. Many years ago, one of the greatest religious leaders in America wrote some words that still touch us today. And we're going to sing this song. It's with words by the great Unitarian of the 19th century, Theodore Parker. And it was put to music by modern Unitarian Universalist musician Tom Benjamin. It's a beautiful little hymn. It's very short, so we'll sing it through twice. It's in the Teal Hymnal, 1058. Let's rise in body or spirit as we sing Be Ours a Religion.
Ritual word.
I'm not quite as nervous as I was the first time. There's a lot of confidence that comes from what we've heard this morning, isn't there? But I do have to say that it's been a week, hasn't it? A hard one, with more frustration and fear being sown around us. And while we may not know what might happen in the coming months and years, what will happen, particularly to those of us and those of our neighbors who already struggle, we do know that we can come here together, we can be together, we can leave together, welcomed, strengthened, and loved. And we can take heart and take courage from the words of the hymn we just sang together, words that remind us that ours is a religion meant to shine like the sun everywhere, and ours is a creed of truth. Words written over 150 years ago, speaking to us and through us, that our ritual is works of love. And so I invite the ushers to come forward to take up the offering, and I ask you to give in the spirit of truth, in the courage of love, like the sunshine.
Thank you, Melanie, for those lovely renditions of familiar melodies from our hymns. Thank you so much. And blessings and gratitudes on all of you for the many gifts that you use to stitch yourselves deeper into this community, this beloved community. Thank you. With our shrine, the Good Heart, we honor the various crazy quilts that illustrate and animate our lives.
For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good.
During these challenging times, there will be sorrow we must bear, and fearful hours that pass.
But ours is a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. So as Jocko extinguishes the chalice, the symbol of our faith, Let unity be our guide to help us navigate the channels of life with the tools of love. And now we have a special way of closing here at Buff. We make ourselves into one or two circles and sing together. Break not the circle. Not break not the circle round. I always want to call it break not the circle.